So Rachel, it's so fun to have you on the show. We just got off an Instagram live together, which I loved. A very warm welcome to the show. It's amazing to have you here today.
Thank you for having me, Angela. And we are both two fellow biohacking nerdettes with our blue blocking glasses on. I can also see it's funny when we go to different events and conferences, I always notice who's wearing their blue blockers. It's almost like this indicator that, yep, they're on the right track. The eyes and the skin around the eyes is actually the first part of the face to show signs of aging. And we can talk all about that. We can talk ways to slow aging, help us get the best hair, skin, nails of our life with research-backed information based on some publications that I've put out as well. So I'm an open book today, Angela. I'm excited for our
let's do it. I'm
conversation.
so excited to kind of quiz you on all anti-aging because I do wear, so I have like daytime glasses that I wear sometimes. And then on my phone, I have like a blue light blocking shield, Ocu shield that I use and on my screens. And then when it hit kind of 6:30, that's kind of my time in the evening that I transition into yellow. And then for sleep purposes, really, I move into the red. But tell me about that, because I remember speaking to, I think it was Dr. Jen Haley about this, and she was talking actually about even wearing sunscreen potentially in front of a screen. Can you explain what the problems are around blue light and aging the skin?
Well, it just so happens I'm writing a literary review research article on this very topic. I'm actually doing 3: parasites in the skin, electromagnetics in the skin, and blue light in the skin. And when clients meet with me, they oftentimes are on relatively the right track with their health and wellness and all of that. And they just want to get their skin on point. And then I start to ask them questions about their routines. What are they doing? Are they washing their face twice a day, morning and evening? Are they wearing sunscreen? And oftentimes what I hear is, no, I'm just working from home. I'm not wearing sunscreen. Okay, here's the kicker. Here's the data for all you biohackers out there. The blue light coming from your devices and your screens, and the blue lights, unfortunately, in most of our homes now, that wavelength of blue light is actually penetrating 100 nanometers deeper into the skin than the naturally occurring UVA and UVB rays that you're getting outside.
Wow.
It is absolutely imperative to ensure that you are wearing sunscreen on the high real estate areas every day, in my opinion. Face, neck, chest, and hands, the sides of the neck, as well as even the tops of the arms. And the most important thing to know about that is to make sure you're only using mineral sunscreens, not these BB creams, CC creams, primers, tinted foundations that have a blend of chemical and mineral sunscreens, but they're marketed as mineral. I see this all the time. So easy thing to do is grab your sunscreen or your beauty product and look at the back or go on the manufacturer's website and look at the active ingredients. If there's any active ingredients other than zinc and titanium, say there's an avobenzone or oxybenzone, anything that isn't zinc or titanium in that active ingredient section with like a percentage, that's a chemical sunscreen filter. And you need to stop using that because it is actually interfering with your healthy hormone production. If it kills plant life, imagine what it's doing to you.
That's the thing, isn't it? I'm curious actually what your thoughts are. Like we're planning to go to southern Spain in a few weeks' time, and it's not going to be that hot there at this time of the year. But obviously the heat doesn't necessarily show the strength of the sun. What do you recommend then for even like just not myself but my kids when you're going in terms of sun exposure to put on the children? How much time, for example? What are your thoughts, and what does the research say?
I'm a big fan of actually using pregnancy safe, kid safe products on myself for my hair care, my cleaning, my deodorants. So essentially what that entails is ensuring you're using products free of a couple key toxins, which I'm going to list out. And you're going to have to start doing this with your dish soap, your laundry detergent, your cleaning products, every single thing that you're purchasing for cleaning and personal care products. It must be free of parabens, phthalates, sulfates, even if it says it's like a plant-based sulfate, artificial dyes, fragrances. Sometimes fragrances are okay. You do have to check with the manufacturer. It could just be a proprietary essential oil blend, which is not nefarious. Of course, not tested on animals. When it comes to sunscreen for you as a mature woman listener, maybe some men out there, and wanting to have products that are fine for your little ones too, that also won't make you look like a ghost, I actually offer a wonderful 20% zinc sunscreen that basically, for me, I'm a Fitzpatrick skin type 2. So traditionally, we'll talk about this, why I'm not so responsive to the sun anymore as I used to be. But previous to doing biohacking, taking adaptogens, antioxidants, I would burn in about 10 to 15 minutes. So if I wanted to have some beautiful time outside as an outdoor enthusiast, I would really need to either cover up or make sure I had sunscreen on my arms or bare areas of the body. And the worst part of that is if you're using the wrong sunscreen, it can make you look white like a ghost. So the trick
That's the
is
thing.
using clean products that are micronized zinc, not nano, but micronized zinc. And then this one particular that I'm referencing to, it's a Ultra Zinc 20%. It just blends in and looks like you've just put moisturizer on. I even recommend having the sunscreen and a hydrating lip sunscreen too. That's only mineral sunscreen in your handbag at all times. So instead of reaching for a hand cream, go for this sunscreen that will also act as a hand cream. And then it will help to prevent sunspots.
Spots, which is honestly from driving, right? I think that's the key at trying to
Driving,
get those.
walking,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I would love to share my story as how I no longer am as reactive to the sun.
Please do, because I'm wondering, like in my head, it's like I'm thinking, is it seed oils? But I'm really, really curious.
Yes, absolutely following a low inflammatory lifestyle. So no toxic seed oils, no canola oil, anything that can be inflammatory. It's essentially the sun's rays, which is unadulterated, beautiful life force and energy. We need the sun to survive. We need the sun in the morning and evening for our circadian rhythm. So it's not anything to fear. And yes, getting as much of that full body exposure, a couple minutes a day, is a really good idea. I personally, even as a double board certified aesthetic nurse specialist, I do not fear the sun. What I do is ensure I have great products that I place on my face, neck, chest, hands, top of the shoulder, sides of the neck. And then I take some very hyper-focused antioxidants and specific supplements to basically give my body this internal defense. When I started to really enhance my immune support a few years ago, and I started taking more NAC, quercetin, zinc, green tea extract, different antioxidants like superoxide dismutase, more omegas, follow a low inflammatory diet. And that includes not eating leftovers over 24 hours. They release histamines. And making sure that my food is highly focused to supporting my epigenetics. So no longer eating kale or oat milk or anything like that. Things that could be quote unquote marketed as healthy, or we've been programmed to believe is healthy, could very well be inflammatory for us. So thankfully, as biohackers, we have access to incredible test kits out there. I won't drop names if you don't want me to. But there are some great test kits on the market, and I'm sure that you're aware of these as well. That it's a simple stool test, and it basically gives you a readout of your superfoods, your minimized foods, and your flat out avoid foods. And I highly recommend doing that. And I started to observe that I could be outside in my bathing suit in the summer months. And I was like, what the heck? I've been reading or working out here, and I'm not burning like a tomato anymore. So it's this concept of chocker blocking your body full of antioxidants as well as adaptogens, leading a low inflammatory lifestyle, which will allow your body to be more resistant to sun damage. Now, there's also a more advanced layer to this, which I am researching in the world of peptides. So let me know if you have any questions, and then that can be a really cool topic to dive into.
Definitely. I want to dive into that. Before we go into the peptides, I just want to ask you, when you're looking at the skin, right? So you're looking at burning. So for example, I don't tend to really burn in the sun. If I put sunscreen on, or I don't, if I'm out there, I tend to just kind of go bronzer, I guess. My father was Lebanese, so maybe it's that skin tone. But how much is that playing a part in terms of our risk factors for skin cancer? And do you think for like purposes of vitamin D production, I know you mentioned morning and evening for circadian rhythm. I'm just really curious how much time is ideal in terms of spending time in the sun? Because you see so much across social media with different doctors and biohackers saying, don't use sunscreen, build up your own defenses, but don't stay out too long. And then other people saying you should have it on. I'm just curious.
Yes. Well, you and I, Angela, are very different skin types. I'm a Fitzpatrick skin type 2. I am a European mutt. And when I go into the sun, I would be more prone to burning because I don't have as much melanin in the skin. And we're going to talk about melanin with peptides as well, and some research on this. So someone like myself is at a higher likelihood of developing skin cancers. And skin cancers are very serious, because what can happen is those skin cancer cells can basically leach into the body and create other issues. I've even had precancerous lesions removed from a few naughty years in my late teens using the sunbeds. So after that, that was a bit of a wake-up call for me to be a little bit more aware. And for someone like yourself, you're more of a Fitzpatrick skin type 3. So you are a little bit more prone to more bronzing, or then there's Fitzpatrick skin type 4. And of course, what we're talking about here is not medical advice, it's educational information only. If you think you have a medical condition, you must seek the guidance of a licensed physician. Now, these are all important factors to consider on how you're going to react to the sun. One of the misconceptions that I see is people think, oh, I'm just going to get a base tan and that will give me protection. That is not true. Now, in the world of peptides, there was actually a substance called melanotan-1, which research on this began in the late 1990s. And then they discovered, okay, we can make this formula a little bit better. And now we have melanotan-2. And this works on 4 different pathways. And it not only helps the body to create more melanin, so it's fabulous for someone like me to actually give me a tan instead of having to go the self-tanner route, which I've done for many years and work with excellent organic self-tanners that do give a lovely color. However, I am on this train myself of investigating this particular peptide because I'm very interested in the anti-aging, antioxidant, hormone balancing, libido enhancing, cognitive enhancing properties, as well as
All
that
from this one peptide.
all
That's
from this one
amazing. How
peptide.
exciting.
Very exciting. And then what's interesting, because of the libido, it's melanotan-2 is considered the Barbie peptide. There's a few 3 key elements that gives it that name. Number 1, it makes you tanned, which was essentially a side effect that they discovered.
Yeah.
Number 2, it enhances libido. So not just, physical performance in men, which is where Cialis and Viagra come into play. It's also a bit more of a feeling of connection and libido enhancement. And then number 3 is actually appetite suppressant. So then there's also those other benefits that I listed off as well. And you can find this research. A great resource for this stuff is peptides.org. You can basically look up any peptide you want.
Yeah.
There's tons of research on the studies and how long this has been available. I'm the type of practitioner, having performed over 20,000 rejuvenation procedures since 2011, I've seen things go very wrong with lasers, with injectables, not by my own doing. However, needing to correct things from other individuals that unfortunately had not great experiences. And one of the things that I learned was to never jump onto anything when it's brand new. And I really learned this in the facial injectable world with, this bright, shiny new product comes out, laser. It can be in actually anything, skincare, injectable laser surgery, body contouring, all this stuff. My recommendations for being a more conservative type of provider is to, okay, it's been studied for a while. It's been on the general population now for 7 to 8 years. And why I take that timeline for looking into rejuvenation options, same things with peptides and stem cells, where peptides and stem cells are now, is essentially where Botox was in the 90s. So when I was and I have an opinion on that as well. There are cleaner options on the market, which I'm happy to get into.
I want to talk
And
to you about
the
that. Yeah.
published research, absolutely. People need to know these things. So when I'm sitting in the room with 40 of North America's top stem cell peptide doctors, and they're kind of in a cowboy phase right now. They're figuring out the protocols, the dosing, the applications, the products themselves are going through, like the example of melanotan 1 to melanotan 2. It takes a few years for the protocols to be better established, the products themselves to maybe go through reiterations. I've seen this in body contouring, in medical aesthetics as well. So that's why I always like to just kind of take a step back. A few years ago, peptides got really popular, BPC 157, PT 141, melanotan. Everyone was talking about this a few years ago. And after a few years, practitioners that are offering these things in, some of the most premier anti-aging longevity aesthetics clinics, they've been working with them now for a while. So things are getting better honed in, for example, ways to reduce nausea that can happen from some of these products. So that's the position I like to take, is I like to just kind of sit back and be in that observer. I'm a researcher. And so that's what I like to do, is review things. How long has it been studied? How long has the product been on the market? How long is it now being used on the general population? And, the products themselves and the protocols are starting to now get honed in. And that's typically when I start to do deep dives.
I agree with you. I think sitting back a little bit. I was going to ask you about another one. What about GHK copper? In terms of its topical application is where I've seen it. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, there's a lot of mixed information out there on copper, as well as other things like microneedling. And copper has traditionally been used in topical skincare products for pigmentation reduction, for brightening up of the skin. And there are some people that have copper sensitivities as well, so that may be something to take into account. However, I actually have a copper peptide serum right beside me. And it's mixed with hyaluronic acid, lactic acid, all sorts of good things. So one of the things that's coming up for me now, which I think is worth discussing, is just because you see a hyaluronic acid, a vitamin C, a retinol, a copper peptide, or this other peptide listed as a hero ingredient in the labeling and the marketing of a product, what actually really matters is the stability of the final product. So say the hyaluronic acid can actually be absorbed. It's the right molecular size. That retinol isn't, or vitamin C. Vitamin C can very much become a free radical if it's not kept stable and oxidizes. So that's where the sophistication of formulations comes in. Some of the best skincare products that I work with about 15 different brands, and I have since 2011. And I see what people keep coming back for. I've seen what people get results for. So there are different ways to use some of these actives topically, and there's also different ways to use some of these actives in a more transdermal sense, say with dermal rolling. Now, this isn't, do not buy these things from third-party auction websites. You want to make sure that you're getting a really good product, you're getting a really good roller. A lot of the rollers that I'm seeing sold online by various different companies are made in the Orient. The metals themselves are an alloy. So think about that for a second. Could be a mixture of metals that you don't know about. Microscopically, if I've looked at some of the analyses on some of these dermal rollers and things for home use, they can actually be up close, the needles or blades. And I've even seen it even in my local hometown, a needle coming out from the barrel on the tool here and actually getting embedded in the skin. So I trust, I trust rollers that have been manufactured since the 90s, and there are some excellent protocols to go along with it. There is
how deep do they actually have to be in terms of those needles? Because I've seen different size. Like one skincare company I was using, they're like, actually, you don't need to go very deep. You're just literally a very, very small needle just to help with product penetration, because you're not stimulating, are you, on your own? You need to go into clinic to stimulate that collagen production, is my understanding, because it's a more kind of invasive procedure.
So oftentimes when we think of microneedling, we think of that picture of that celebrity Kim K with a red face, right? The vampire facial also, if you will. No, you do not need to go that deep. You shouldn't be seeing any blood. It shouldn't be painful. So there are a few different depths that I work with. There's actually 3 that I work with. So what it comes down to is the client's skin, how deep I might want to start them with, or if they're wanting to focus on more deeper acne scarring or C-section scars, or laxity to the abdomen, or laxity to the top of the knees. So different depths can be used for different things, but essentially what we're wanting to do is create little holes in the skin to allow the products to be delivered not just topically, but transdermally 100 to 1,000 times deeper. Now, what's important to consider with that is most products on the market are intended for topical use only, not transdermal. So you have to be very particular which products you're using with dermal rolling. And I was fortunate enough when I started in the medical aesthetics industry in 2011 to actually work very closely with the research assistant of one of the 4 doctors. And there was a doctor in Western Canada, and on the West Coast here in US, in the UK, and South Africa. They all sort of discovered this option for at-home collagen stimulation pigmentation reduction kind of at the same time. So I was very fortunate to have actually seen clients in their 60s to 90s that had been diligently doing a really great practitioner grade skincare routine with microneedling. And they actually had more collagen in their skin than some people that I would be seeing for different facial type treatments in their 20s and 30s. So I started to really pay attention to this a very cost-effective, time-efficient option. However, you need to have the skin stable with a couple key basic skincare products, talk to the skin with actives like retinol, copper, hyaluronic acid, lactic acid, and then start to integrate the things like dermal rolling. A lot of clinics are offering in-clinic microneedling. Some of them are better than others. Some of them are using radio frequency with it. But this is a tool to me that's really stood the test of time. And again, very cost and time efficient.
And what do you do? Do you just clean it with like alcohol?
Yeah, so there's actually a whole protocol that I give my clients. I have this entire dermal rolling checklist of the order to do everything and how to take care of the product itself, as well as offering ongoing support. Because there's definitely a little bit of a learning curve. And I know we have like a 45-minute, hour-long podcast, so we can leave it at that. I will say that there are very specific ways to clean the skin, apply the products, use the roller, care for the roller, that I love to walk my clients through.
Awesome. And we'll link actually in the show notes to consultations with you, because I think a lot of people will be interested in that. With the just kind of thinking then around one question I had was in relation to NAD skincare that's kind of more and more prevalent in the biohacking. I was just wondering what your thoughts on there in terms of what you've seen results wise and the science.
One of my good friends is actually a formulator for likely the one you're talking about. So I was chatting with him it was actually kind of like a biohacker dinner. It was quite lovely. And we're all exchanging ideas. And I think some people are really onto some things. However, I do like for new actives to be on the market for a while and see some consistent results with it, some research and development, photography before and afters. I'm really particular with what I suggest and put my name behind. I'm excited to see, I'm seeing methylene blue in skincare. I'm seeing NAD. We've been seeing peptides like Matrixyl 3000 and copper peptides for decades now. And it's just, I always take new things with a grain of salt because I never want to waste anyone's time and money. I like to sleep very well at night and ensure that I am suggesting something that is a benefit and isn't just trendy. So I'm really excited to see some research on this. I think that's all very exciting. Supporting the skin on a mitochondrial level is very fascinating to me, which is why I love red light therapy for that as well, to get that application essentially of the mitochondria in the skin. That's what that kind of technology is all about. It's photobiomodulation. There's also different ways that we can get skin rejuvenation using light therapies, which is where lasers come in. And in some Stanford studies, which I actually shared on Dave Asprey's podcast, episode 668, which you might have heard me on, Angela.
Yeah, I think I did. That's what I was listening to. Yeah.
Yes, I referenced a couple Stanford studies. There are some laser technologies on the market that can basically work as a magic eraser to break up deposits of melanin in the skin, which would be termed as a sunspot or an age spot or broken capillaries, red acne scars. And it also helps to promote collagen. And even on an epigenetic level, allow those skin cells to be expressing in a more youthful way. They even compared a subset of individuals from their 30s and their 50s. And after the photobiomodulation, this is a Stanford study, the 50-year-old skin cells started to express themselves more like the 30-year-olds, which is very interesting that we can achieve that. I'm a huge fan of lasers. However, one thing to note, and I won't make specific laser type recommendations here on the program, lasers are, because it depends on your skin type and all sorts of different variables, lasers are the #1 point of litigation and where things can go wrong in medical aesthetics. So going to a reputable clinic with great technologies that have professional staff is really important. And I basically help my clients figure out where to go and what to do, because a lot of clinics, I actually had from a city that I previously lived in, she messaged me and did a practice consulting session with me because I do rejuvenation training too for other doctors and nurses and all that. And she said, oh, I got this device, this laser, and I'm going to start, trying it out on friends and family. And she mentioned the brand name and I never heard of it. So you have to be very careful. A lot of places are buying even counterfeit lasers or really low quality lasers. So there's really only a handful of lasers that I like. And I spent about 3 years getting my hands on and actually using and studying the patient response, pain, outcome, the healing time, the cost for treatment, analyzing all of that. And there is a lot of garbage out there. I'll just be the first to say that. So I have a very short list of what I actually
so people really need to do their research, because there's a laser actually that I keep I think, when you see the ads pop up, it's an at-home laser, Lima or something, and I keep looking at it and wondering. But I was always concerned with laser actually causing potential damage to the skin if you're not using it correctly.
That's a great topic to bring up. I just yesterday did a lovely session for a fabulous 74-year-old woman. Wow. And she had actually purchased one of these online, and it actually, she said, made some of her pigmentation darker. So it really depends on the wavelength, the heat, the energy, also what you're doing skincare wise as well. So there is actually one light-based at-home therapy that I can get behind because it's from a very reputable company. They understand nanometer wavelength. It's not only for skin, it's also for pain also. So it can be used for, this is what they claim. I'm not making these claims. However, I did find benefit from it for neck. So one of the reasons I got so big into biohacking is obviously Dave Asprey is a friend of mine. That helps. And I was also into car crashes and dealing with pain, whiplash, headaches, fatigue. I saw huge skin signs of inflammation after those crashes, which was fascinating to see. And so that's why I continue with all of these healthy living, low inflammatory biohacking practices and lifestyles. And the funny thing is I started to notice, hey, I'm getting the best skin of my life. And previously to employing biohacking as a, double board certified aesthetic nurse specialist, I would literally have to go into the clinic about once, not go into a clinic. I had the laser, $160,000 laser right next to me. So I would just zap the little red spots, post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, PIH is the technical term, after a breakout. And that just wasn't going away as that redness. It was that visible sign of inflammation on the skin that I would have to laser off because my body wasn't able to manage inflammation. And then I started to eat the right foods, follow a low inflammatory lifestyle, and I'd be at about 60% in clinic rejuvenation, 40% home care. Now I'm actually at 90% skincare, dermal rolling, healthy living practices, and only 10% in clinic now. Very interesting to notice.
So that's from diet. So what would you say are the major things?
Well, it's not just from diet. It's from reducing stress.
Yeah.
It's cold therapy to start was really important. Sleep, saunaing, grounding, clarifying. There's actually a couple of key biohacks. This will actually be a good segue into some of the key biohacks for the skin. And there's actually 5. Can you guess what some of these 5 might be, Angela?
I think one of them I use on my face, which I think you've mentioned already, which would be red light therapy. I definitely use that. Sauna, I love for kind of skin clearing and detoxification. So that kind of, I guess that's 2 different forks because I use an infrared in terms of light therapy. What else do I do? The dermal rolling that you've spoken about. We've spoken about peptides. What else? I think just for me, sunlight makes a huge difference to my skin, just actually fresh air. You know, if you're not outside, it kind of dulls it.
Yes, you definitely hit on a couple key aspects there. So I've identified 5 key biohacks to help you get the best hair, skin, nails of your life. Okay.
Oh.
Air, water, lighting, electromagnetics, and detoxing. So you touched on a few of them, and let's just specify now. So in regards to air, this is why washing your face is so important. Most homes have mold. Okay. I don't care how new your home is. If you don't have mold, you could have VOCs, off-gassing from a new build or whatever. Anytime you go into a big box store, you're also just getting inundated with VOCs. If you smell it, it's in your brain. It's actually past that blood-brain barrier in your nose, and your brain registers it as a smell. And so if you smell something that doesn't smell good, I want you to leave because you're actually getting chemicals, VOCs, which are harmful. So air purification in the home is key. Having air purifiers in your bedroom, in your main living space, throughout the home, really important. Dirt, debris, pollution, mold, when they sit on the skin, actually creates oxidative stress and accelerated aging. So acne, pigmentation, signs of redness and inflammation. In certain countries and cities in the world, especially in the Orient, there's very high levels of air pollution. And we actually see more prevalence of skin redness, sensitive skin, and acne and pigmentation. So air is absolutely essential. Now, the next is water. Making sure you're drinking reverse osmosis, distilled water, no tap water. If you're out at restaurants, they're serving you tap water. So if you're out at a restaurant, ask for like a Pellegrino. That's great. I love mineral water. If I'm on the go at an event, I will not drink plastic water bottle water. That water is dead. You're getting BPAs from it. So always go for products that are in glass. So that's a great kind of on the go. Get yourself like a case of Pellegrino or carbonated mineral water, have it in your hotel room and just drink that throughout your stay. And the other thing you can do with water is structure it and also hydrogenize it. When you hydrogenize your water, you're literally transforming your water, not just into H2O, but you're actually infusing more hydrogen gas into it, which can have this beautiful antioxidant benefit. We can literally turn our water into an antioxidant. And I did that actually during a really long fast. I did a 5 to 7 day long fast in the desert at 7,000 to 8,000 feet in altitude. And it was really good for fueling. So you can do hydrogen tablets.
Are you using like the hydrogen tablets? Because sometimes when I look at them, even the really good companies, they put like other things with them. And that was the concern to me because I was doing it for quite some time. And then I was like, oh, I'm not sure.
You can actually, there's different water systems available, and some of them I recommend and use myself that actually use a cathode. So it's essentially using a power source to create the hydrogen gas in the water.
Yeah, I had
so personally, I like that a little bit more. And then the other thing is to structure your water. And you can structure water using various biohacking technologies that are on the market by literally placing your water next to semi-proprietary arrangement of semi-precious stones, metals with an amplifier, or you can even do it with certain types of minerals as well. And water.
I put water next to my Sensate. Yeah.
Yeah, great. So the water in nature is free flowing. It's already ideally structured. The water in our body structured. When we drink water from the faucet, it's going through 90-degree curves. It loses its ideal bond structure nature. So that's why structuring your water can be really great, just to make it more bioavailable, so that when you actually drink it, your body it's more bioavailable. It doesn't take as much energy to transform that water back to structure. It's very interesting. So that's water. And then air, water, lighting. So you mentioned getting sunshine first day in the morning for circadian rhythm balancing. It's going to open up different pathways in the eyes to help regulate hormones. And then sun gazing, I would do cold therapy and distract myself with the sunset. And that was really nice, just to kind of tone down.
Nice.
What I would recommend before actually buying a red light panel is to remove as many LEDs in the home as possible. LEDs penetrate 100 nanometers deeper in the skin than what we get outside. So I postulate hair loss, facial pigmentation, accelerated aging, circadian rhythm imbalancing. Many of you already know these concepts of junk light. So any LEDs you have in your home, say in your ceilings, try and switch them out to halogen. Sometimes they're like a puck LED light. You have to change the entire fixture. Trust me, go halogen. The lighting's so much more beautiful. And it's much better for the skin and aging. So air, water, lighting, and electromagnetics. I'm a huge fan of actually wearing EMF protective clothing all the time. I wear them when I sleep, or I use different blankets. And it's usually a silver type of woven material. And I've tested this actually with my EMF reader right here. I did realize I was electromagnetically hypersensitive, more sensitive than others. So some of the practices I would do would be hop in my 4x4 and go 200 miles out of cell phone reception and just have an off-grid day, get out of the house, all this. I'm a huge outdoor adventurist. But one of the things to point out when we're on our computer on a Zoom call, we might as well be sitting in front of our router. So I need to launder my EMF clothing. So it's in the laundry pile there. But oftentimes I'm business on top and wearing my EMF clothing down below. And the first night I slept with EMF protective clothing was the first night I had 100% sleep score with my 8 sleep. And so I was like, okay, there's something to this. And then I started wearing them all the time. And then I saw this upward trend with my HRV. So that was pretty conclusive for me.
Yeah, pretty conclusive. I'm a big fan of that EMF blocking clothing. How is that impacting the skin when you're talking about the skin? What's the interplay there?
The research on EMFs in the skin is dry eye. So 50% of the North American population, I have 11 plus years in ophthalmology. So, and oculoplastics. So you have the kind of like the hierarchy, if you will, is your standard primary care medical office, dermatology office, cosmetic dermatology, plastic surgery, and oculoplastic surgery. So that's where I've sat for 11 plus years in my career. And so the eyes are the first area of the face to show signs of aging. That's why eyelid surgery is very popular for reducing excess hooding to the upper and lower eyelids, first area of the face to age. And skin cancers around the eyes, 10% of all skin cancers occur right in the periocular area, eyebrows, bridge of the nose, top of the cheeks. Yes, because it gets so much light. And so if 50% of the population are impacted by dry eye, you have to think about for a second what we're in front of all the time. We're literally on Zoom. We are getting bombarded, emails, whatever. I mean, a lot of us are living in front of computers for our workday, and we might as well be sitting next to the router. So there are some types of glasses that you can wear that I've seen that are EMF blocking. There's even some hats with a screen that come down that are EMF blocking. I mean, that might not be a great look. So that's one of the barriers I see as a woman. I don't want to look like I'm about to head on to the set of Star Trek. So I am working on some things behind the scenes for the ladies, because it's not really the best look right now with the EMF clothing for ladies. So don't worry, I'm on it.
You're on it. So we'll wait for that. So EMF, and then the last one was grounding.
Air, water, lighting, electromagnetics. The grounding is part of
Part
the
of the electromagnetic, so
Yes.
offsetting it.
Yes. And actually groundology.co.uk has some incredible
Yeah, they
images.
do. I have a grounding
Yes.
mat from them. Yeah.
Yep. I'm on a PEMF mat quite a bit too at the house here. And it's all about the blood. So if you are thinking about, just for a second, how EMFs impact the skin, it's actually via the mechanism of impacting your blood. When you're on your phone for 5 minutes, what happens with your blood, instead of the red blood cells, which are like little donuts, little inner tubes, they are bouncing off one another because of electromagnetic interactions and repulsion. Now, when we're on our devices, we become too positively charged and our red blood cells start to stick together. They form chains called rouleaux. They go from like a smooth epithelial lining of the red blood cell to jagged. They start to stick together. You get clotting factors forming. So think about this for a second. If your blood's sticky, it's not flowing, you're not going to get good blood flow to your organs. There's research on the ovaries and the uterus on this. You're not going to get good blood flow to your brain. Your brain, hello, is the master control center of everything, your hormones, pituitary, everything. And then also your skin as the largest organ of the body. Now, if you want good skin, you have to have good blood flow so that the blood is flowing, carrying oxygen and nutrients to the tissues, and then also now detoxing, carrying away metabolic processes, metabolic waste products, and CO2. So if you don't have good blood flow, you're not going to have good function of your entire system, if you will. So getting outside and grounding is absolutely imperative. We've done this for thousands of years. We just haven't been doing so over the last couple of decades. We're told to stay indoors and stay in our home, and it's for your health, right? It's not for your health, actually. That's the most ironic thing. You need to get outside. And then the detoxing is a huge part of that. So I'm going to drop some statistics here because I started to clue into things. I was doing Zoom calls for skin rejuvenation in 2017. I didn't feel like it was fair for, just the clients in my local community to access this kind of information for rejuvenation. And so I tend to kind of postulate things before they happen. I'm not always right, but sometimes I am. And I was thinking to myself, okay, we're seeing some skin stuff. We're, seeing some respiratory stuff. We're seeing some brain fog stuff. What could also be going on here? And then I started to think about just in my nursing training and in the medical school education system, there's barely any talk on parasites. I remember in my nursing education, there was one page and it only affects, third world countries. That's not true. So I started to chat with 40-year plus parasitologists, look at the research. 80% of North Americans have parasites. So we
in
do
their skin
throughout the body.
Throughout the body. Okay.
Yeah. So if you're dealing with autoimmune stuff, Lyme's disease, about 70 to 80%, as per the research I've seen from parasitologists reporting on this, the Lyme's is actually housed in a parasite. Clear the parasite, clear the Lyme's. Okay. A lot of us with gut disturbances, when I first started doing gut testing for nutrition food analyses, it didn't look at parasites, but my gut scores weren't great. And I was like, what's going on here? I'm eating really well. Why isn't this moving? And then I did a cleanse. And this particular cleanse was highly alkalining. First 1 or 2 weeks, you don't feel great. Same thing with like the first 2-3 days of a fast. And I was noticing that I was actually eliminating things. I mean, it's largely due to drinking river water on my days off in the wilderness, and eventually it caught up with me. But we pick things up through shaking hands, human contact, through breath, and also through food. So 80% of us in North America have parasites. There's many different kinds, as well as yeast, fungi, other toxins, mold, parasites. Those are key things to detox actually a few times a year. So it's not just about doing, parasite cleanse for like a week and then you're done with it. No, it took me from March to December last year to clear these things. And when I started to clear them, some remarkable things happened. When I was detoxing them, I actually had visual flashes in my periphery when I was watching a movie. So I was like, oh, well, that's interesting. This is potentially a sign of toxins being released in the central nervous system. Parasites can impact your central nervous system. They're not just contained in the gut. These things are little. they kind of go everywhere. They can actually breathing disorders through impacts of the diaphragm and the lungs, cognitive disorders, parasites in the brain, and also skin disorders. I even had a doctor meet with me, and she's like, yeah, I was looking after this person, and they had parasites in their arm, and I came into contact with them, and then I got like all these things on my skin. And she unfortunately went to another doctor, and they gave her a referral to a psychiatrist. So the last thing you want to do is go to your doctor and say, you think you have worms.
You end up in the psychiatric.
So just make it a general practice to detox and notice what's coming out through your stool. And if you're seeing things, keep going until you notice that your stool is clear. And the main things I noticed after parasite cleansing, yeast, fungi, toxins as well, it's all kind of part of it, is a huge change in my cognition. I felt like I had started taking that limitless pill in that movie.
You were saying.
Yeah,
Such
cognition
a big difference.
On point. My speech compared to previous podcasts, I've done like 650 interviews, and my clarity in conversations, my recall, hugely improved, as well as all the edges with my hair that I had lost over a couple of years from stress, all came back, and my nails came back stronger than ever. I work on my vehicle. Don't let this blonde hair fool you. I'm very mechanically inclined, have been since a young age. So I like to use my hands. I like to be in nature, crawling on rocks and climbing and hiking and all that stuff. I was like, these are not breaking. They're so strong. So I started to really see those differences in cognition, brain function, skin clarity. Is having way fewer breakouts, not as reactive to the sun, as we were talking about earlier, hair coming back, and nails coming in very strong. So those are big things to notice.
So detox is key. And what are your thoughts on collagen for the skin? Actually taking like oral collagen?
This is an excellent question. So a lot of times, many of you maybe have been on social media and you see advertisements for this beauty supplement or this beauty device, and you click on it and you think, okay, yeah, they've got some good testimonials. But what you really need to consider here for a second is, how long has that formulation been on the market? Is it third-party independent lab tested? So the supplements and products that I like to work with are 15 to 36 years of third-party independent lab testing. This is the realm of practitioner grade products, not what you're going to be getting from a social media ad that is probably white label and all that stuff. So when clients are feeling the need and desire to purchase a collagen supplement, they want to take it to reduce fine lines and wrinkles. However, what happens when you consume collagen is it actually gets dispersed throughout your entire body, to your joints, to your soft tissues and all of that. It doesn't just magically deposit itself into fine lines and wrinkles. However, there are certain types of collagen that I have taken that I did notice skin results very quickly. And then when I stopped taking it, I noticed skin changes very quickly as well.
And what are those?
Yeah, I just noticed more plumping to the skin, a little bit more of like a dewier, glassier look. And then when I wasn't on it, I had a little bit more gut disturbance come back, because collagen is great for the gut. And my skin just didn't look quite as good. Now, collagen can come from many different sources. It can come from fish, it can come from pork skin, it can come from chicken, and it can come from bone. So this is where we can get hyper focused with the type of collagen that we consume based on our gut testing and which type of collagen and meat is better for us. So there's that as well. If you are considering investing in doing dermal rolling and doing lasers and other skin rejuvenation options, my position is you need to have the cofactors available in your body to make collagen. The whole aim of the game is to create a little bit of a gentle injury to get the fibroblasts to make more elastin and collagen. If you don't have those cofactors on board, you might not actually be getting the best results you possibly could. So I am absolutely a fan of taking collagen. However, the product itself really does matter, and having realistic expectations also matters, and also the type of collagen that could be best suited for your epigenetics and physiology.
Oh, so you actually test to see which type of collagen as opposed to, okay.
You definitely can. Personally, I noticed the difference between beef and marine collagen. So it's very much personal specific and what your epigenetics want. Just give your body what it wants.
So much easier.
We can test and set a guess.
What about, before you go, one thing, because you mentioned at the beginning, I just wanted to see what your thoughts were. What about some of the more chemically based things that people do, for example? So I guess where I'm going with this is, one of the things we talked about, the eye area aging first, then obviously we see like skin dropping, facial toning. I guess my question is, what can we do to support that naturally? And what about things like, so obviously PRP and things are more natural therapies because you're using your own stuff, but what about fillers, Botox? See so many people doing this. What are your thoughts?
Oh, I have many thoughts on this conversation.
How toxic are they?
Yes, many thoughts. Very interesting coming from myself, who's had a wonderful career. Well, I still do. I do a lot of teaching now for other doctors and nurses and research as well. And what I noticed was those that were already doing the heavy lifting at home with their skincare, dermal rolling, healthy living practices, they would respond better to these types of rejuvenation options, whether it's laser, injectable, collagen stimulating, all that stuff, surgery, recovery from that as well. And then I would notice this other subset of clients of mine that had autoimmune conditions. They were dealing with pain all the time. They would come in and they looked visibly stressed, and I could see visible signs of inflammation and aging. So one of my recent papers, which was actually published in the UK Journal of Aesthetic Nursing, is my more functional skin rejuvenation algorithm approach. And you can find my research. There's a few papers that require a subscription because they're medical journals. And then the Journal of Aesthetic Nursing is open source. So you can find these papers at rachelvarga.ca/research. So my position is to really establish reduction of inflammation, then do skincare, then maybe microneedling, then maybe lasers, and then just see if the other options like injectables or surgery are necessary, right? And if what I'm actually sharing in my papers now, and I feel very strongly about, I'm very connected to other practitioners in the functional space that have worked with people who have been injured from these things or had an uptick of other things that they were dealing with before when they had rejuvenation. So then it's this concept of the toxic bucket theory. If your toxic bucket is full, you do one thing, you eat the wrong food or whatever, you don't look after yourself as well, you get a rejuvenation treatment, some type of stressor in the body, get a car crash, for example, or just more stress, that can tip over. And then you're going to have a manifestation, unfortunately, of things that could be signs of inflammation or autoimmune stuff kind of rearing its ugly head, like skin conditions like eczema or psoriasis when your toxic bucket is full. So what I'm putting in my research now, based on discussions with functional people, practitioners that have seen people have issues, is to always ensure that who's getting these types of options are healthy and their toxic bucket is as empty as possible. So they haven't had a good sleep, if they haven't eaten, they're just not feeling good, you need to delay things. Now, to add to that, there are various different products on the market, especially in the injectable space. The one that everyone knows about is Botox. That's been around since the 90s, but there are other forms of this. And what these products involve, and this is in my published paper, so I can speak to this. There's a core neurotoxin. I'm actually doing a presentation on this for a number of doctors next week. There's a core neurotoxin that actually is what's reducing the message from the nerve to the muscle. That's why you get a relaxation of lines, say, forehead, furrowing the eyebrows, relaxing of the muscles around the eyes to lift non-surgically and reduce signs of crow's feet. And then I have a jawline paper as well for applications for reducing jowls and getting a little bit of a tuck underneath the chin. Now, when we look at the different products that are on the market, they have the core neurotoxin. That is what's creating the action, right? The effect. And that weighs about 175 kilodaltons. It's like a jelly bean. With one product, it's just a jelly bean. And with other products, it's the jelly bean sitting in a tennis ball. The tennis ball is representative of what's called complexing proteins. They're added, they have no really understood effect, and they just kind of dissociate, okay? Now, what we've seen actually in long-term research with those complexing proteins in most neuromodulator products is they can actually, at some time in certain people, impair the jelly bean, the core neurotoxin, from actually working. And then people aren't getting the same response that they once had. There's even research that's come out now. You can find this stuff on PubMed, that even after certain exposures to viruses or other pathogens, or having taken a specific type of product, they're not getting as long of results. And I predicted this would happen. I predicted that we would see pharmacokinetic interactions, and we are. And so this, I just will always like to wait and see, right? Wait and see for this research to come out. So there are cleaner options on the market. Absolutely. They can feel a little bit different. However, if anything is not feeling good for you, don't do it. Nobody's making you do anything. If internally you're thinking, okay, facial injectables, fillers, surgery is not for me, great. Actually, I think that's a really good approach to focus on your healthy living, your skincare, dermal rolling. You can do at-home peels now. Great, super clean amino acid-based peels that I love. There's, like I said, I'm 90% home care now, previous to what I was before. And then when I started to look after myself, I wasn't having to get as many things done in that same timeline. I'm like, wait a second, I should be due for another treatment, and I don't need it. And then the other thing with fillers that I found was really interesting is some fillers have different ingredients, different nutrients and other things that are said to be a benefit added into the product. It's not just hyaluronic acid. There's sugar molecules included. It's called BDDE, and it's basically helping to bind the chains of hyaluronic acid together. So it's not just hyaluronic acid. There's other things in it too. And I'll just very honestly say the last time I had any fillers, which was quite some time ago now, my HRV tanked. It tanked. I was sitting at like 120, and it literally tanked about 20 or 30. So what that told me was, just because I had something applied to my face, it did have a systemic effect. So it does add to that toxic bucket. So just because you're seeing things on social media and, immediately and before and after, like tear trough fillers, you see this immediate benefit, you don't see what can happen with fillers placed in specific areas, like around the eyes, a month later, 9 months later, 9 years later, which is why I wrote my first paper on eye rejuvenation, because there are options that don't carry this potential for migration, fluid accumulation, because hyaluronic acid grabs water. It holds up to 1,000 times its weight in water. That's why it's used in this way. So there's so much to know with rejuvenation, what you can do where, which products, timing, alternatives. And I love to meet my clients where they are, what their skin goals are, what their values are, and help create a plan with that. And if you are wanting to do things, there are some cleaner options. And actually in Europe and Canada have access to some of my favorite fillers that for some reason in the States, they only have
not
one of
available.
them.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's some reasons for that as well. However, even with that product, my HRV tanked, which I thought, okay, this is interesting.
Even with the ones in Europe?
Yes.
What's the name of the one in Europe and Canada?
I won't get into brand specifics with that. I won't get brand specific. I know you're peaceful. Yeah, I won't get brand specific with that one. But it was just really interesting to see that there was a cardiovascular impact.
That is really interesting. That was definitely not something I had expected.
Me neither.
Yeah, because that's quite scary. Because some people you see, particularly in the celebrity market, right? They're having this really quite regularly. What is that doing?
They can be done, and they can be done very tastefully. I gotta say though, in the UK, and on the west coast of USA here, You really have to be careful who you go to. Just a quick tip that we can end on here is always look at who's potentially caring for you. Do you feel like they're actually caring for you? Or are they just trying to make money off you, get you in and out? Okay, on to the next one. Are they knowledgeable? Are they able to answer your questions? Do you feel like you can trust them? A lot of these options that are available, they can work very well for lots of people for a very long period of time. However, if something isn't quite feeling right for you, it's really important to listen because the body always knows.
The body does always know. What a
Mhm.
great note to finish on. And I love the fact that everything you talk about here is so well supported by the scientific literature and that you give it the test of time. I just think that's so, so important. Rachel, where can people find more about you? Obviously on Instagram, I know you're active on there. You have a podcast. I think you have a special code people can use if they want to consult with you and actually get their skincare routine really, really super dialed in. Please share.
Absolutely. And I look forward to giving you a consultation
Yeah,
or
I'm looking
one-on-one.
forward to that.
Yeah, we'll spend about 75
Cool.
minutes reviewing your current skin goals, maybe some changes you've experienced over the last 5-10 years, the skin on the body, the neck, the chest, the face, the
Yeah.
hands, the hair, all those things I go through with you and then
I'm
help you
looking forward to that. And
create.
then maybe we can do like a little part 2 on my results.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
And
that'd be
then
fun.
I help create a plan just for you, customized based on your lifestyle, your goals, and all of that. And then tell you where to go, right? With maybe what to do here, what to do there. And of course, it's educational information only. And yeah, so hang out with me at Rachel Varga Official on all social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. I have the Rachel Varga podcast. I recommend listening on the podcast platform because I do many solo episodes there, and then I host my interviews live on YouTube, which subscribe, you're welcome to join, ask questions live. I love being an open book. I don't edit my stuff. What you see is what you get. It's important for us to be a little bit more raw these days. And,
Yeah, I love that.
yeah. So rachelvarga.ca is where you can book your one-on-one session with me and also shop some of my favorite skincare products. I work with 15 different lines. So basically I've distilled down in one easy place, products that are free of the parabens, phthalates, sulfates, artificial dyes, fragrances, things that I see my clients keep coming back for, a lot of products that I've worked with 2011. So you can shop easy, knowing that it's all been pre-vetted. There's even toothpaste, deodorants, personal care products, hair care, hair, skin, nail supplements, dermal rollers, it's all there. rachelvarga.ca and use promo code Angela Foster for 15% off of a one-on-one call with me and also on my e-store. And I do have, I mentioned those 5 biohacks. There's also a couple other skin tips too that everyone can start doing now. And you can download that for free at rachelvarga.ca. You'll see the little pop-up to get access to that. Or you can go to rachelvarga.ca/slow aging. And that's a free guide. You'll love it.
Amazing. Thank you so much. We will link to all of that in the show notes. It's been so amazing to have you on. Thank you so much, Rachel.
My pleasure. I look forward to meeting some of you soon.